Hello there. I'm Greg Ross, and I'd like to welcome you to our coaching session on cold call objections. We call this session Cold Call Objections 101, and this coaching session in particular is designed to be an objection handling fundamentals course for sales reps and SDRs. So if you're an account executive, sales manager, sales director, or any other variation of sales rep, and your job is to book meetings for the sales team as an SDR, then you'll get a lot out of this course. The goal here is to get you from 0 to 1 and give you the fundamental skills necessary to start successfully handling even the toughest of cold call objections right away. We'll also attach some sales enablement content to this course in addition to this presentation to help you get off the ground faster. And if you'd like to see that, drop a comment in the comment section and just comment me and I'll send it right to you. So let's go ahead and dive in, shall we? Before we begin our course on cold call objections, I want to take a moment to emphasize an important principle. There's an old proverb that says, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance." In other words, when you plan to dedicate yourself to something and diligently practice it, you're going to see results. With that said, make sure you're blocking time on your calendar at least once per week to study your most common cold call objections and draft the perfect responses. It only takes about 30 minutes per week to ensure that you're prepared for whatever your prospects throw at you. If you're diligent and do this before making cold calls or attending sales meetings, it's going to pay off. During this course, we'll be discussing what I consider to be the 3 fundamentals necessary to successfully overcome pretty much every cold call objection. First, it's going to be critical that you're intimately familiar with all of the various ways your offering can add value to your prospects. Now, the reason for this is due to the fact that you won't always guess the area of the most value on your first try. You may tell the prospect that you can solve a certain problem when it's not perceived as a problem at all. You'll need to pivot quickly and find something that resonates with the prospect in order to get them to book time with you. Next, I'll teach you how to create an objection handling plan so you can be prepared for whatever objections your prospects bring up. You'll find that a little preparation goes a long way to help you win cold calls. Finally, I'll teach you a simple trick to boost the meeting's booked rate on your calls by simply pushing past the first no. All right, I love talking about cold calls, so let's get this party started, shall we? When you cold call a prospect, you'll find that it works best if you choose one valuable part of your offering to focus on. Calling people and just blurting out a list of 10 features that could be valuable to them will usually just cause confusion and lead to an unproductive conversation. So take your best guess and focus on one aspect of your offering that you think will be really, really valuable to them. If you guess incorrectly, which happens, you'll need to pivot on the fly to different valuable aspects of your product or service. This requires 2 things: agility and an in-depth understanding of the value you provide to your customers. When these 4 common objections come up during cold calls, you'll need to be equipped with the best responses if you hope to book the meeting. You'll have to be ready to persuade the prospect a little, being prepared to pivot the conversation if need be. So the more time you spend studying your offering and these objection handling responses, the better off you'll be. We're going to perform a series of role plays to show you how to respond to each of these objections. We'll show you how to reframe the conversation when your prospect thinks they don't have the budget to afford your solution. We'll also show you how to convince a prospect to make time for your next call, even when they're struggling with a busy schedule. We'll demonstrate what a pivot looks like when you have a prospect tell you they're not interested. And finally, we'll teach you how to overcome objections related to your competitors. Also, creating and maintaining an objection handling plan is one of the most important steps you can take to ensure you're well equipped to overcome cold call objections. It's like the famous philosopher Taylor Swift said, "If you fail to plan, you plan to fail." I can't believe I just quoted Taylor Swift, but I did. Sorry, not sorry. Well, it's the same way in sales. You'll need to create a blank document for yourself, and every time you get a new objection on a cold call, write it down after the cold call ends. Now, as you continue making calls, you'll want to put a little tally mark next to each objection you've already heard. And if you get a new one, write that down too. As you continue to hear objections, the 3 with the most tally marks at the end of the week are the ones you'll need to focus on. Take your time with these 3 and draft the best possible responses right there on your objection plan document. Next, pair up with a buddy and practice your responses. This makes it easier for your brain to recite these responses when you've rehearsed them several times. Now that you have the responses scripted, keep the documents in front of you as you're calling. When you get one of those 3 common objections, jump straight to your document and flow right into your scripted response. Okay, you're one step closer to becoming really, really good at overcoming these difficult cold call objections. Now, the first scenario we'll drop in on is an interaction between Ollie, who will role play the prospect, and Jay Phantom, playing the role of the salesperson. In this example, you'll hear Ollie give Jay a pricing objection. He'll tell him it's too expensive. Then Jay will come back with the response he's written in his objection plan. Listen carefully and write down this response. It may be good for you to use in your own objection plan document. All right, let's go ahead and begin the role play. Listen up. Ring, ring.
Listen, no
Ollie,
offense, but
I
this sounds
understand where
really
you're coming
expensive.
from,
Things have
but
been
we've
so
been working with
tough
other
lately.
marketing
We
directors.
really just
Oh, let me try that again. The audio was a little jumbled.
listen, no offense, but this sounds really
directors
expensive.
who have seen
Things
a
have been
3
so
to 5
tough lately.
times
We
return on
really
their
just don't have the
investment from
budget for
using our
something like this
software.
right now.
Wouldn't you say that's a smart investment?
All right. Thanks, Ollie. So you see, we overcome the pricing objection by framing our solution as an investment and not simply a pure expense. You'll find that this is a really helpful principle in sales. Whenever someone purchases a solution, it's always an investment. Buyers will always spend money if it will lead them to making more money. Remember that. In this next role play, we'll hear Ollie as the prospect give Vanessa the objection that he doesn't have the time to meet. Let's listen in as Vanessa expertly negotiates this objection. Pay attention and feel free to write this response down in your objection plan document as well. Ring, ring.
You know what?
I'm so
I'm
sorry.
so
It
swamped.
sounds like you're swamped.
I don't even have time to meet with you.
But if
Maybe
I could
try me
show
back
you
in
how
3
our
months when I'm
software
less
can
busy.
help free you up to use your time strategically, wouldn't that be time well spent? I'm so sorry. It sounds like you're swamped. But if I could show you how our software can help free you up to use your time strategically, wouldn't that be time well spent?
Thanks, Vanessa. If one of the value propositions for your offering is that it can help your prospects save time, you'll definitely want to use that to overcome the objection that Ollie offered up. In business, it's easy to become so overwhelmed with work that you miss an opportunity to save time by improving your tools or your processes. Okay, in the next role play, Jay will be the prospect and he'll give Vanessa the objection that he's not interested. This can be a tough one to overcome. Let's see how Vanessa does it, shall we? Ring, ring.
I
You know what?
appreciate you taking the
We've been
time to
talking
reach
about
out,
how our
Vanessa.
marketing software
The
could
truth
help you
is,
save time,
I'm just not
but
that
maybe that's
interested
the
in
wrong
what you have to
focus.
offer.
It could also help give you better insight into your data. Do you feel like you could use better analytics?
Good stuff, Vanessa. Okay, in this final role play, we'll see how Ollie responds to the competitor objection. Now, in order for you to be effective in responding to this objection, you'll need to have a few of your competitive differentiators written down on your objection handling plan document. If you only have a few competitors, just write down a couple of differentiators for each. If you have a lot of competitors, try to find a few common differentiators that apply to most of the competition. That way, regardless of which competitor they name, or if they won't name the competitor specifically, you'll be ready. Let's listen in as Ollie demonstrates how to respond to a competitor objection. Ring, ring.
Thanks for calling, Allie, but we're all set. We actually use one of your competitors, marketcompetitor.com, to handle that.
Oh, you're using marketcompetitor.com? I'm so glad I called. We've been getting a lot of their customers coming to us lately, looking for better analytics.
Okay, I hope it was helpful to listen in as we role-played some of the cold call objections you're likely to hear from your prospects. Let's recap what we've learned. First, if they tell you they have no budget or they perceive your offering to be too expensive, try to get them to shift their thinking from cost to investment. Remember, they'll usually spend money to make money. Second, when prospects tell you that they're just too busy to meet, let them know that your solution can help them give them a few hours back in their day. If that indeed is one of the value propositions for your offering, don't ever be dishonest with your prospects. Third, if they say they're not interested, chances are you took your best shot and missed in terms of how your solution could add value to them. That's okay, but you'll have to move quickly to pivot to a different value proposition. You'll have only a few moments to change subjects, so you'll need to be familiar enough with your various value propositions that you can shift quickly between them. And finally, when they mention a competitor or in-house solution that's already in place, you'll want to have an idea of what your differentiators are. This doesn't necessarily have to be a competitor of yours. If their team has built an in-house solution, the chances are they're spending way more on the project than if they purchased your products or services. It's almost always more expensive to build versus buy. Once you get to the point in your cold call when you've finished your pitch, if you make it that far, you'll get your first no. This is something that I've seen a lot of confusion around because this first no will be an objection that doesn't sound like an objection. The reason for this is that some people are just too nice to say no. So you actually hear them say something like, send me an email, or I'm just walking into a meeting. Now you're feeling good because they didn't technically tell you no, and they're feeling good too because they didn't have to actually say the word no. The problem is definitely a no. Let's run through these responses one by one. If the prospect asks you to send them an email, this is likely a no. If you fall into the trap of sending prospects a bunch of information up front, you're probably eliminating the need for a meeting. So I'm going to read this objection handle to you. Sure, I'd be happy to. What's your email address? Now, you want to toss that out there right up front to kind of lower their shields, right? Because that's where they're expecting you to come back and argue with them. So if you make it sound like you're going to send them an email, it just lowers their defenses a little bit. Now, after they've given you the email address, you say something like this. I'm happy to send some information over, but we have some recommendations prepared for you, and I've been asked specifically to book time with you next week to share them. You really want to push back and let them know why you think it's a better idea to have a call versus sending them an email. In the second example, if they say that they're just walking into a meeting, 90% of the time, they're not. I'd like to toss a little joke in there when they say that to subtly call them out. Try this approach. Ask them to set up an intro meeting and see what they say. Usually this jump starts the conversation. This is what it sounds like. Wow, I have a gift for catching people right as they're walking into meetings. That's okay. The only reason I was calling was to schedule an introduction call with you for next week. Does Tuesday at 2 p.m. work? I can send an invite in just a few moments. Now, that will get them to say something like this. Whoa, hold on a second. What's this regarding? That's exactly where you want them, because when they do that, then it leads perfectly right into your pitch. Get the drift? In the third example, the prospect may be angry that you've caught them on their personal cell. I'll make a little joke here and tell them that our data team is just really, really good, maybe a little too good at finding people's telephone numbers. I'll treat this just as if they were walking into the meeting. You'll notice my response is very similar here. Oh no, is this your personal cell phone? We have a team that provides us with these numbers and they're very good. That's okay. The only reason I'm calling is to schedule an introduction call with you next week. Does Tuesday at 2 p.m. work? Now, just as expected, they're going to start kind of backpedaling here and asking you what it's regarding, which segues perfectly for you right into your pitch, exactly as planned. Now, finally, some of these folks will tell you that they're just not the right person. Remember, you took the time to identify them as a potential buyer based off of their title. So have confidence that they actually are the right person. This is what it sounds like. Yeah, I understand, but we speak with other marketing directors all the time and have had many great conversations. We actually prepared some recommendations for you. Can we schedule a call next week to review them with you? All right, let's review my pro tips for this session, shall we? Remember, don't ever settle for the first no. You'll get a no almost every time after your pitch, so be mentally prepared with your response. This means you'll need to have a written objection plan. If you skip this step, you'll have a much lower percentage of successful cold calls. And finally, rehearse your objection responses with a buddy over and over again until they become second nature. You'll need to know exactly what to say in the moment to book the meeting. Hey, this is Greg Ross, and I'd like to personally thank you for joining me for our discussion on cold call objection handling. I hope this course added a ton of value to your journey in sales. And if it did, drop a comment below and let me know. Until next time, remember, sales is a game, play to win.